And a good Wednesday evening from the Varsity Aces. I'm Greg Targaglia for NorthJersey.com. Welcome to Varsity Aces Live, our weekly Wednesday evening show where we take you around the world of North Jersey varsity sports. And we've been around to a few sports this year. This one I don't think we've ever gotten to on the program, and it's one of my favorite to cover. Been doing it since 2002, and it will be tonight's topic is bowling. That's right. You probably tell from the from behind me. We had a 300 game in the Bergen County Groups 1-2 tournament over the weekend. You see it right there. We will talk to the bowler who authored that game, and we will also talk to a coach. We will talk to his teammate because Mahwah ended up with the high series and high game winner. And of course, we have a coach from the team that took home the team trophy, Park Ridge Emerson. That's Mike Werman. Mike, you've been involved in bowling for a long time, so we're glad to have you here. First of all, welcome aboard.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Thanks. And we were talking a little bit before the show. February, one of the articles I wrote a long time ago, because I've been doing this a while, I said, I guess the comparison is if March Madness is for basketball, February fever is the thing I like to use for bowling. And this is that week where all the state tournaments are happening, really. Normally they would. They're not this year, but we do still have Bergen County tournament bowling. The small schools, Group 1 and 2, were last week. The big schools, Groups 3 and 4, are coming up this Saturday. And then the week after that, there will be a Bergen County girls bowling tournament. So, we'll start with the Groups 1, 2. First of all, Park Ridge Emerson. It's been Park Ridge. The Park Ridge program has been going for quite a while. You added Emerson as a co-op a couple years ago. What's the bowling interest been like there? Because they had never won a county tournament before last weekend.
Right. We definitely get some kids from Emerson. Each year we get a few. They all are just part of the family, just like all of Park Ridge kids. They're just as motivated. They're always there on time as well. They're at every match. It's really a pleasure to have them as well.
And we're going to get into a lot of topics, not just about what happened last weekend, but also what's going on in the sport in general, because it seems once they opened bowling alleys in New Jersey last summer, people started going out to them again. And there you see Coach Werman with the second place finisher in the state, Joe Mahoney, who's also there in the center of that picture. Joe Mahoney, one of the best bowlers of the state coming in this year. And we've been writing about him. He's a 3-time state qualifier. Before the pandemic hit, I'm thinking, hey, could he be a 4-time state qualifier? And then, the pandemic hit, and here we are, the week of the state finals. There are still tournaments, which is one of the things he talked about over the weekend. Grateful for that. But, what have the emotions been like? What have you noticed in him, and what have they been like for you as a coach, not having this like one big great week of bowling?
Right. For him, we're all obviously very upset that we can't have a state tournament. It is one of the greatest experiences that there can be. But we're taking everything that we have, just like we're really glad we even have a season. None of us expected really much of anything. Like COVID is obviously a very big problem that we have in the world right now, and we keep hoping that things keep getting better from this point forward. To just have a season, we're just so grateful. Having a county tournament was also a terrific experience, even if it's smaller. It doesn't matter, just tournament bowling and competition bowling. That's all we can ask for at this point.
And that's probably the most fun part of all this is when you get people. I know there were no spectators this weekend. Again, more topics we have to touch on, but we mentioned Joe Mahoney, still one of the top bowlers in the area, carrying the top average in Bergen County. I think he's still right around 216, as he has been for the past couple of years. He finished third individually at the Groups 1-2 Bergen County tournament last weekend. Julian Torres of Fort Lee was second. I want to mention Fort Lee because they've had some good teams recently too. But the other team that was kind of right there and finished runner-up, but had two outstanding individual efforts. We're going to talk to both of those bowlers now. Tyler Grobman was the individual overall champion. Now, normally you would have either a 3-game series, or in past years the county tournament has had a 6-game series. Because of COVID and everything, this was a 4-game series. So you actually shot a 9-12. When I talk about a 900 series, normally that's only if you get 300s in a row. But with 4 games, even 4 games, 9-12, you were in the 220s. So Tyler, first of all, congratulations. I didn't get a chance to interview you on Saturday. So what were your thoughts and emotions in getting this title, becoming the first Mahwah bowler ever to win the individual high series award?
I know that the competitors out there were very good. I know Julian's right on my tail. Same thing with Joe. I just know that I needed to do well and bowl well, and as long as the carry worked, I would do well. I think I have 2.912. It's an average of 228, I think, somewhere around there, and that's pretty hard to beat. That's only a few few 9 counts, a few spares. It's not exactly easy. And I know that with Ethan's 300 in there, that definitely helped with coming in second place. I know that shooting 228 over any amount of games is extremely difficult. And I was just lucky enough that I could do it over the 4-game stretch and take home the individual title.
You did make reference to your teammate, and he is going to be our third guest tonight. We'll leave the big entrance for him. It's Ethan Moskovitz, who threw only the 4th perfect game, 300, in the 49-year history of the Bergen County tournament. It didn't happen at all up until 2002. Mike Riccardi of St. Joe's did it that year. There is Ethan finishing it off with strike number 12. And you got a reaction from the crowd. It was otherwise stone silent because there was no other bowling going on. Boulder City didn't even open to bowling to the general public till later in the day. So we were all there for the tournament. Then everybody went home and everything sort of closed down until later. Take me through, Ethan, if you can, that experience of, I mean, number one, getting 300. I don't know if you'd ever had one before, but number two, just the way it happened and, you know, the fact that it was stone silence and then all of a sudden, I mean, the cheers could have been louder, but, you know, it really did sound like a great reaction of your coach and your teammates and everybody watching.
Yeah, it was my first 300, but the whole thing was nerve-wracking. In the beginning, I usually don't strike out a lot in the beginning. So the first couple of strikes that I got, I got the first 3-4 frames. That was pretty surprising, and I was happy with that. And then I just kept getting a strike after strike, and I thought that eventually I was gonna, leave an open frame or get a spare or something. But I just kept striking, and then the last frame, everybody was watching me, especially the last strike. Everybody stopped bowling, and the coaches told other players to get off the approach. And everybody was just watching me, and I was shaking. You can't see it in the video, but I thought the ball was going to fall out of my hands. I didn't really know what I was doing. And I bowled it and hoped for the best, and I ended up getting the strike.
And a two-handed style, is there anyone in particular that you saw that, you wanted to copy or you just sort of, it felt better bowling that way for you?
I've been bowling two-handed since I was a little kid. I never knew how to bowl, and I just thought that it was an easier way to bowl. So I just kept going like that. But when I joined the team, Tyler taught me a lot, actually, because he's also a two-handed bowler, and he taught me a lot about how to perfect it and how to do better.
Yeah, I hear a lot. Jason Belmonte is the guy that a lot of people will point to as two-handed, but it's become so popular now. Tyler, is Belmo someone you watch, and how did you kind of get started with that two-hand style, which it's become a lot more popular, I would say, in the past 10 to 15 years, and it really seems to work for a lot of guys.
Yeah, Ballin was definitely one of the biggest influences, and a couple of my old teammates that are now bowling in college, I really learned a lot from them, and then I kind of, took it under my wing and kind of practice. And then Ethan and along with a couple of other my teammates, they started doing it, so I was able to coach them and then learn from them also. And
Tyler, correct me if I'm wrong, I know a couple of years ago there was a Mahwah bowler, I think it was Tyler Klein, who got either a high game or he won an award like for one of the top 3 high games at the state finals. Was that the team that you were on too, going down to Carolier?
Yeah, I didn't bowl that year, but I was with them.
So you've had the experience of going to the big state finals, everyone there. Can you compare it, something like a major tournament like that? The county tournament is major, and we do get a lot of people, but no spectators allowed this year. Can you compare what the environment's like, saying like a big state final as opposed to, what it was like just sort of all the bowlers doing their thing on Saturday?
Yeah, it's definitely different. I remember last year when I was bowling the state finals, it was insane. There was stuff everywhere, spectators, parents, coaches. It was nuts. And, the little things will get to you. And like, there's people bowling left and right and pins and just everything that's creating a lot of noise. It's very hectic. And then, on Saturday, everyone's just like, you have half the house or give or take half the house. And there's really just complete silence, and there's not a lot of commotion because there's no spectators. And it's just like you can focus on your own thing versus, a team finals down in Carolier where there's a couple hundred people versus maybe 45, 50 people that are bowling.
Now, I know Coach Werman has also been to Carolier Lanes because he bowled for Park Ridge. You're coaching back at your alma mater right now. Your brother Dan also bowled for Park Ridge. He had a very special game at the state finals. Were you there to witness his 300? I want to say it was around somewhere between 2010, 2012, around there.
Yeah, so I believe it was 2012. That was the year after I graduated. I was technically there, but sadly I was not there. Unfortunately, I decided to go talk to friends of mine from South Jersey. It's very rare that I got to see them out in the same center at the same time. So I was hanging out with some of them, and of course I was on the complete other side of the center. And Carol Lear is not a small building. I found out right after, did not receive a text message, nothing, had no clue that it was happening. I thought it was a joke at first until my mom came running over and told me that he shot 300. It was a pretty cool feeling, though, once I finally did get to see him and congratulate him. It was pretty awesome.
And I got to be honest, I feel your pain, because the first 10 years that I was on the bowling beat, 02 to 12, I found every possible way to miss a 300. In fact, I was there to miss the first 300 in the history of the Bergen County tournament. Mike Riccardi of St. Joe's in 2002. I don't remember exactly if I had just gotten there or whatever, but I finally saw one at the state finals. It was a fellow by the name of Jay Suseski from Sayreville. Say that 3 times fast, in 2013.
Yes.
And since then, I've gotten to cover one in the state finals, a bunch of them. And of course, Ethan's on Saturday, which, we mentioned Mike Riccardi was the first ever in Bergen County tournament history. The Bergen County Coaches Tournament started in 1973. Long summer of research to do, so I found that there were other sponsored tournaments for high school teams going all the way back to the 50s. Won't get into that tonight, but so in 49 years of the Bergen County Coaches Association tournament, Mike Riccardi was the first, 2002. 2003, Steve Fernandez of Ridgefield Park, and then Ethan became the first since 2013 to have a perfect game. That 2013 one was by Jordan Lopez. He was a pretty good bowler because he went on to lead his team to a state tournament of champions. And there's Jordan from Lyndhurst. And would you know it, Jordan was congratulated by Jake Rollins of Glen Rock right there. Jake went on to win the individual state tournament of champions. And all he did was throw a 300 in the state final. So Tyler, Ethan, when you hear about being in company with these all-time great bowlers, how does that make you feel? What does it make you think?
It makes me feel really good because I know that they put a lot of effort and hard work into their bowling. And before last year, I never really bowled before, but I've really gotten into it. So being next to these people that have been bowling all their lives, it's a great honor.
Well, I got to tell you, we're very grateful that the BCCA was able to get the tournaments going this year. Oddly, it's the only sport in which there are county tournaments this winter in North Jersey. Basketball, we haven't been able to do. Hockey, obviously, there's spots with that too. I know swimming's coming up, but I don't think they're going to have a county tournament for that. Is there something? And I'll turn to Coach Werman for this. Is it that bowling might be the small teams and the way it is might be conducive to, hey, we can actually make this happen because there are slightly fewer moving parts? Or do you think there is still enough interest in bowling around that? People are willing to help you make it happen?
I definitely think it's a mix of it's definitely safe and there's definitely interest. Every year it seems like we're getting new kids that just pick it up and they absolutely love the sport. But definitely thankfully bowling is something you can do with a mask on. And during these times, we're trying to figure out anything we can do to allow these kids to do all these sports that they love. Thankfully bowling was not impacted too much. At least you can wear a mask and we can keep everybody safe and keep them all socially distant as much as possible.
And it's really become a type of thing that, last summer, there were very few, they're my favorite sports, but not everyone, cares for them. NASCAR was on before all the other sports were. And actually the PBA tournament, the PBA tour came back, no fans, but gave people something to do. And last summer when the restrictions were lifted and bowling centers opened, here in July in New Jersey, that gave people something to do. So I'll ask maybe first Tyler and then Ethan, what has your personal, either bowling in leagues or bowling recreationally been like since the bowling centers opened up back last summer? Have you been able to get out? Has it been something that maybe your friends are saying, hey, it's something to do. Let's go along and do something else because COVID's locked down so many other things?
Yeah, I started bowling in the middle of July, once bowling alleys started opening back up, and I'm doing a couple leagues at Holiday and one at Fairlawn. And besides high school, it's just a good opportunity so I can keep bowling and keep practicing because, as you just said, bowling alleys aren't exactly affected by this. I know everyone, you have to have a mask on, you have to have this, but bowling's one of those sports where you can kind of keep to yourself and kind of just practice and do what you need to do. And I think that as long as the bowling alleys are open, I'm going to keep bowling, and I don't think that's going to stop me if there's any other restrictions.
Well, we should note that there have been a couple centers that might have had to, take a break. I was talking to some people at Boulder City. They haven't been able to stay open every single day since July, but they certainly have taken all the precautions, and it certainly was fine for the tournament on Saturday. So for you, Ethan, what has it been like bowling throughout the pandemic, and then finally getting to have a tournament where you can bowl with your teammates, even though, you're spread out over 2 lanes instead of 1. There's no fans as opposed to, a lot in the past there were. But what is your own experience of, I guess, for lack of a better term, COVID bowling? What has your own experience been like?
Like Tyler, I started in the middle of summer. And I only went like recreationally. I played with my friends and stuff like that. I'm not in a league. So I just went whenever I felt like going, if I had nothing else to do, or if I just felt like bowling with my brother, I'd go bowling. But regarding the tournament, it's something to get used to. It's not the same. We used to be on pairs with another team and we'd switch lanes and stuff like that. But since we had games before the tournament, we were already accustomed to, I guess, the new style of bowling for the season. So it wasn't any surprise. It's just something that we needed to deal with.
Well, I know that, again, we say you're Bergen County champs, and you are. It was for the Group 1 tournament. They had to split up the small schools, which is Group 1, 2, and the big schools, Group 3 and 4 this year. In the past, it's always been all one tournament together, but they have given out big school, small school trophies. So you know what? Again, congratulations to you guys, but I am still curious, how much are you going to be paying attention to this weekend? No spectators, so you may not be able to watch it live. Hopefully you'll be following us on Twitter, but how much interest do you have? I'll start with Tyler, because you had the high series of the small schools. How interested will you be to see, what the series is like? And if someone only gets to like 901 or 902, you can say, hey, 912, I beat everybody in the county.
It's definitely to be something I'm going to try and watch. It's not exactly an easy title to hold. I have individual title over everyone in Group 1 and 2, and hopefully, everyone this weekend or next weekend, whenever the Group 3 and 4 schools are competing, I hope everyone does well. But I would like to keep my title and say that I have the whole Big North.
And Coach Werman, a lot of teams do have, cameras. I think Wallington I've seen, and some other schools bring the cameras to the lanes. There were some there on Saturday, so people can still watch. And again, thanks again also to the Bergen County Coaches Association. They have a spreadsheet that they update, which is tremendous for me. For you personally, is there going to be a place that you're tuning in? How much interest will you have in the upcoming tournament this weekend?
I'll probably check out, see what the scores are when the day's done. Obviously, I'm just interested in seeing the new talent that's coming through with all these schools. I mean, like we said before, every year it's just more and more interest with bowling. To me, it's just like I'm just glad that we're able to have this tournament. However people want to take it, it's just great that we have a tournament that these kids can bowl in. I'm glad for them that they can have this experience.
Well, I'm very glad for all of you being able to join us tonight. It's not that often we get to talk bowling here on Varsity Aces Live, but I mean, they got the right guy for it over here, and I'm glad we got the right guys for it over there too. So we have a Park Ridge assistant coach. Let's give a shout out to the head coach, Blair Buscareno, was unable to join us, but Mike Werman, the assistant, so much about bowling. I think Coach Buscareno even defers to you sometimes when it comes to interviews.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we have our 2 Mahwah standouts. Tyler Grobman, who is the individual Groups 1-2 Bergen County champ, a 9-12 series, an average north of 220. And, of course, our high game winner at last weekend's Bergen County tournament, Ethan Moskovitz, 300 game. Don't worry, Ethan. I will get the list updated soon, and we'll get your name on there, all right? Thank you guys so much for joining us. This has been Varsity Aces Live for February 17th, a Wednesday, 2021. We will have new guests next week. We may even have a new host next week, but that's because we like to mix things up here on Varsity Aces, and we always appreciate it when you join us here on the show. So for everyone behind the scenes, including producer Mike Pedagano, for our guest tonight, Mike Werman from Park Ridge, Tyler Grobman, Ethan Moskovitz from Mahwah, my name's Greg Targaglia. Thank you so much for joining us on Varsity Aces tonight, and we hope you have a good night. Take care.